at the same time, it was like you had done it right. You healed it, you worked through it, and you were confident. So um, here's the biggest issue I see with high school athletes, especially.
Having a little bit of, I think you could call it like a little PTSD about an injury. I think that's a normal thing to have. There's a massive difference in my speed from my junior year to my senior year, and I give all that credit to track. I think track was very important for me to keep my speed and to be a better athlete.
It was just such a reality check. So how did you handle like that kind of conversion to college football practice and the, time constraints and camp life and all that? Paxton, what's up, my brother?
What's going on? What's going on?
Paxton, so good to see you, man. Saw you cutting up at practice this spring and tearing it up. And, it's hard to miss you being a 6'3", 205, 10-pound wide receiver out there, just running like a gazelle, and just so proud of where you're at, man. So happy to have you on today.
Right, absolutely. Hell of a spring, been working, miss Edie White ball, miss having you as my OC, but this still counts as you being my coach. So let's
Yeah.
get into this. Thank you.
Well, you're in really, really good hands right now at Nicholls. So I'm really proud of where you're at. So let me
Yes,
just
sir.
dive into a little bit about Paxton. Okay. Paxton shows up in eighth grade. He's about 5'10", lanky, young, and you just tell look pretty good for an eighth grader, whatever. And he had the swag, he had all that about him. But ninth grade comes around and I've got him in PE class, and he's on these crutches, he's got this hip injury, and all of a sudden, by the time we're finishing ninth grade, I mean, you're 6'3", 6'4", probably 6'3" or 6'2" then, passed me up right away. And I'm like, man, this guy's coming along. Okay, we got something going on here. And here we go in the sophomore year, and it's like, all right, we got a little arsenal here. We got a sophomore quarterback, sophomore fullback, sophomore senior receiver. And you had made a name for yourself, obviously, through spring and going into summer, and the work that you were putting in. So lo and behold, Paxton, I'll fast forward and we'll touch base a little bit on his process, but Paxton finishes E.D. White as easily the most decorated receiver we've ever had. We're a flex bone option offense, and there was just no doubt that we were going to adjust to make sure the ball was in his hands. We joked about him on Saturdays. We just called him a cheat code. It was like we just get the ball to him, and it was like the rest is history. And he's all state. He's 1,000 receiving yards. It was just unbelievable to watch him. And the best part about it was nothing that he had came just from showing up. He absolutely dove into the work and process every single day, and had some major setbacks, which we'll talk about. And, just so proud to coach him, and so proud to see him out there in the field, living his dream, playing college ball. And super thankful that he came on today and we can have this talk and kind of put it out there, what it takes to get to the next level and his process behind it. So, Pax, let's just backtrack a little bit and just kind of walk us through that first aha moment where you're like, it's my dream to play college football, but now it's like I got a chance. I think I can do this, and I think I'm meant for this. So
Mhm.
unpack that a little bit and just tell us, what was your thought process and mindset going into your training and preparation for it?
Training and preparation for college ball. Well, I kind of started getting that passion for college ball around 10th grade. That year we went to state. I saw the guys that we played at ULab and STM, and I wanted to be better, to be like them, being a young guy. And then after 10th grade is when I decided to play 7-on-7. And 7-on-7 really took a toll on my passion. It made it amped it up, being that, that's a different culture out there. And coming from E.D. White and a school like that, getting out in a little different culture with some scouts out there and some stuff, and making some plays, I kind of realized, like, man, I might be able to do this.
Yeah.
So then the grind started. I started going to work out at LBA with Coach Turk, and then just doing my thing on the field.
So walk us through, a lot of times, we talked about the beginning, just, people think maybe you just got to show up and the rest happens, but walk through a typical day of let's say the summer, to where we have you there at 6 a.m. You're working out, you're lifting weights, you're running, and then obviously you're getting it done in two other scenarios. Like you said, you're training 7-on-7, you're working out privately with Coach Turk. So walk us through a typical day of what that looked like for you and just how much went into your day in preparation.
So you'd always kind of see the guys that were getting noticed, and you saw the difference between guys that were going to play in college and weren't. And I wanted to be the guy who was. So I knew I had to pick up things and stuff to enhance my ability during the day. So my day to day during the summer, probably about senior year, was to just hit summer workouts in the AM, rest, recover. Sometimes I'd have a 7-on-7 tournament or a 7-on-7 practice, but every Tuesday, Thursday, I'd always get in the lab and work footwork and a couple routes and stuff and just quickness off the line. But that all comes with recovery as well. Recovery is a big part in that. And then just keeping the mindset. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have the mindset. So that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. And you're not going to admit it, but I'll say it. But probably every single time I passed ED White for about 2.5 years, as long as you were healthy, between 6 and 8 p.m., I saw a bunch of guys out there. Some of them looked like they knew what they were doing, some not so much. And there was always one guy out there who had his helmet on, who was getting after it, getting the routes in, and that was you. So every time I passed by, I was like, all right, these guys are serious. That's what I like to see. And it just made me so proud. It made my job super, super easy. Like you never just showed up and became a cheat code. Like you put the work in every single day. And, when people say, well, what is putting the work in? It's everything, having the right mindset, having the recovery tools, it's planning your day and schedule out, having routines. And it's not overly complicated. It's just not easy to do. And you did it. So let's fast forward a little bit. So let's go sophomore injury. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get a catch over the middle. I'll never forget. I think it was Wayne Wright. You're running the 16-yard drag. You
Mhm.
hit it over the middle. We
Right.
get you down to the red zone against Lutcher. We're both undefeated. It's a packed house. And you're a sophomore here. So you get it done. You set us up for a first down. You put us, in the scoring position. And all of a sudden you get up and we see you holding your shoulder. And you're kind of like,
Mhm.
something ain't right. And we just kind of said, I don't know, we brush it off. And I think you went in for the next play. And after that, you realized like, oh man, this is really, really hurt. So lo and behold, you broke your collarbone. And you know, you were devastated, we were devastated. It was just something that, we couldn't imagine continuing on without you. So unpack a little bit how your mindset shifted from having that devastating injury to the recovery process to what led you to make sure that you could support your team and the offense in any way that you could during that recovery time.
Right. Well, I feel like supporting the team comes hand in hand. The way you guys coached us and the stuff that we went through as one family, supporting the team was just, that was just common nature for me to do. Um, but looking back on this now, so I did it, I broke it, and it was my dad, or maybe you had texted me this as well, after the game and had let me know that it's happening for a reason, and I kind of kept that mindset through, and then you see what happened, and I was only a sophomore. So I just kind of supported the team, brushed it off, and thought this may be a good thing. This may amp something great coming up in the future.
Mhm.
But that injury was rough. But to see us and come back for the state championship game in UL and get a couple reps in there to see you guys succeed is really all I wanted. And that makes the injury feel a lot better when your team's rolling through others. So
And as a coach who I'm training under Brian Kane and Ben Newman, and we have to lead by example. So when I say that, when I texted you that everything happens for a reason, I probably fell asleep laying in my bed, teared up, telling that to myself over and over again, like it's happening for a reason. Bigger things are happening. Something is a reason for it. God made this happen the way it did. And it was trusting that process. So I have to tell myself this over and over again.
Mhm.
And that's why, it gave me some reassurance that there is a bigger plan behind it. So now we're going to fast forward junior year. you're starting off hot, everything's going well, and all of a sudden we go to that misty, rainy, cold, dark practice, and all of a sudden we're going 1v1, and then you're laying on the ground again. And
Hmm.
like, what is going on? And lo and behold, it was the other one, correct? The
Yeah, it
other
was my right one that
collarbone
time.
his junior
Hmm.
year. Now, the
Hmm.
simple solution or the simple mindset for so many people is, why is this happening to me? I'm the victim. I can't believe this is happening again. Why does this keep happening? And you just lose motivation to hit the recovery, right? But I'll never
Hmm.
forget after that, you you made me so much more confident in your ability and your recovery and your mindset. When you showed up there every single day with a sling on, you were present in every drill. You made sure that you were the guy that was coaching other guys up. And it really had so much effect on you, and it could have really torn you to pieces, which I know it did at the time, but your preparation, your mindset, easily is what kept you on track, I think. So walk us through now the junior year recovery and that time frame and knowing that you could get back for the playoffs.
So the junior year recovery it kind of ties in with me wanting to play college ball, right? So I broke my collarbone and it's going to suck for the first couple of days, but I know I've been through this before and I'm going to be back. And that's when I searched up Josh Allen in high school.
Mhm.
And Josh Allen in high school had broke his collarbone 3 times. So that gave
Wow.
me plenty of confidence. And I thought that if I'm going to be playing this game for the next 7 years, injuries are going to come. It's part of the game. If you play hard, they're going to come. But it really sucked that it was that other collarbone. But that recovery process, I think, was a bit easier because I decided to get surgery so that I could come
Hmm.
back for STM.
Hmm.
So after that surgery, I was feeling so
Hmm.
much better. I
Yeah.
think that surgery was one of the best decisions I've ever made. But the injury just you can't think of it as a horrible thing. You can't be
Hmm.
why me? That was the easiest thing to say is why me?
Hmm.
You ask the Lord why me, but he does this for a reason, and I think that reason was to allow me to go off my senior year.
Oh, for sure. So talking about, getting back for STM, all right. So let me paint this picture. You come back, we're kind of like it's the semifinals. Okay.
Mhm.
We've
Mhm.
had probably 3 or 4 major injuries at every position throughout the entire season. And it was just one of those weeks. It's like one of those years where it's like, all right, who's healthy this week? Let's go. And I'll never forget the exact collarbone that you had broken your junior year at the time. We were still kind of questioning, like, is he good? Is he good? And you had rehabbed it to the T, exactly what you were told to do. And I'll never forget you caught a drag route over the middle. And I think the flat defender had came up on you and tried to, tackle you. And you stuck that side, I think it was the right side, right? Your junior year,
Yes, yeah,
you
it was.
stuck your hand in that guy's face mask and you threw him to the ground. And then you got another 12 yards and ran out of bounds. And I was like, I looked at the other coaches. I said, okay, I think he's good. So, unfortunately, we lost that game. So we couldn't go on to play in the next game, the state championship. But at the same time, it was like you had done it right. You healed it, you worked through it, and you were confident. So, here's the biggest issue I see with high school athletes, especially, is how much of the fear of re-injury affected your play, or if it did, what did you do to kind of, get that out of your mind? And if it didn't affect you, what was your mindset to make sure it wasn't a part of something that, threatened your ability to train and practice and compete at a high level?
Well, I think having a little bit of, I think you could call it like a little PTSD about an injury, I think
Mhm.
that's a normal thing to have. And
Yes.
I did have it at times, but you got to realize that you can't have that PTSD in football. You may
Hmm.
be able to have that in some other sports, but football is all about contact. And if it's really your passion, I think you just let that go and you let the adrenaline of the game and the adrenaline of the play take over. And that's really what solved it for me. It was just the adrenaline of a play or seeing from the sideline that the ball was coming at me, before the play started. And I think PTSD with the injury and kind of worrying about it comes hand in hand with the injury.
Yeah.
but you can't have that fear, because
Right.
I had that fear and I broke it again, and then when I
Hmm.
stopped having that fear is when I excelled and I started running faster and
Yeah.
breaking faster. So,
Yeah. No, no doubt. And, it's something that we all think about. And even as coaches, I remember, we had all gotten injured that junior year. So Jake had torn the ACL. And I remember just
mhm.
being so nervous and so, just hesitant to call, quarterback run plays. And, I just kept getting reassured like he's good, he's good, he's good. And, we think about that all the time. It really affects us as coaches making decisions and putting certain plays in, things like that. So, I want to touch on this a little bit too. So now you finish your junior year probably 180 pounds, 175 pounds, roughly, give or
Mhm.
take. So you make the decision. You say, I'm going to run track. Well, every time we talk about running track, the first objection I hear from a skill player is, well, I want to gain weight. So Paxton joins track, and let's just put this in perspective. He finishes football at about 180 pounds his junior year. He runs track for the first time. Due to injury, he's healthy enough to run track.
Mhm.
And he finishes track season, goes into the summer weighing over 200 pounds. So walk us through the whole process and mindset of number one, knowing what track would do for you as a skill player and receiver. And number two, how you manage that weight gain along with that constant running and that endurance sport.
Well, my main focus was to gain weight and to
Yeah.
be a bigger guy to add on to the frame. And I thought, what's a better way to keep speed in the off season than to run some track with it? So as I was gaining weight, I decided to run track, and that was probably the best decision I have
Mm-hmm.
made
Mm-hmm.
in my high school career. Because if you take a look back now and you see these tigers and lions you threw to me, there's a massive difference in my speed from my junior year to my senior year. And I give all that credit to track. I think track was very important for me to keep my speed and to be a better athlete. And
Mm-hmm.
not many people like running. I mean, I can't say I love running,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a perk and it's definitely an additive to my skill level. So
Yeah.
that with gaining weight was fairly just kind of just flowed. Like I'd
Yeah.
work out at school and then I'd run track in the afternoon and then it would just be consistent and it just kind of planned out and built up perfectly.
Yeah. You said the key word right there was consistent. You
Hmm.
didn't say, well, I'm not hungry today, I'm not going to eat. And you didn't say, well, I'm not feeling track today. Like, no, you stayed consistent. You put your cleats on every day and walked the track. I watched you because we have powerlifting, right? So I'd watch you
Hmm.
walk out the weight room with your track cleats and you'd go to work.
Yep.
And you said it yourself. I mean, but what I like about competing in the spring is that you're going through the discomfort. Like, who really loves to hear, hey, you got 8 200s today? Like
Right.
that's competition is discomfort. And you know it was hilarious, when your dad Toby would send me these clips of you at the track meet and you're running the 200 and all these guys are about 5'8", 5'9", and then you just see this 6'3.5" gazelle running, just smoking them in the 200. I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, put this on YouTube right now or put this on some social media. And you did. And it was like really impressive. And I think that really helped you with a lot of traction with the recruiting because you were
Oh
posting
yeah.
track highlights as much as you were your football and 7-on-7 highlights. So, you
Right.
know, people would see that. If I'm a coach, I'm saying, this guy is just blowing people away in the 200. Like, I got to learn more about him. And then they go to your Twitter and they'd see, well, there he can catch too. And then it's like, well, he's had injuries, overcoming. He's got good plays. He can jump. And then, the rest is history. So, yeah, I was super, super proud of you that spring. And that's when I saw, I noticed like another level of maturity. Like you took on that role of saying, I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to get out there and run track. And,
Hmm.
like you said, look at week one highlights and the dividends paid off right away. Because, I mean,
Oh,
like you
right
said,
away.
and to put in perspective what Tiger and Lion is, it's literally a quick screen to Paxton. There's no blocking for him. We made sure he was a single receiver by himself. And we throw it out to him and say, whoever you got out there, make sure they know how to tackle. Let's go. And 8 times out of 10, that turned into a touchdown of probably 50 to 60 yards plus. It was just unbelievable. I mean, it's mind blowing. It makes me pretty sad to watch it because I want you back and I want you to come do that more for us. And it was just unbelievable to watch, man. So, so let's fast forward a little bit. You go into your senior year, you absolutely kill it. That De La Salle game, it just became we couldn't run the ball. They had guys going all over D1 in the box and they were stacking it. And it was like, all right,
Mm.
we're just going to throw the ball to Paxton every play. And then before you know it, you've got, a career game at home in the quarterfinal or by district second round. And essentially we win by 4 points. And it was like, you took over that game. So you became an absolute monster your senior year. And now it's time to make a decision. And you ultimately settle on Nicholls State. So talk us through your decision, your process, and, how your preparation continued, from that gap from signing day to graduation to starting up at Nicholls.
Yeah, the decision I had made a few weeks before De La Salle, I think it was right before De La Salle.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the hardest decisions ever
Yeah.
because a lot of people get offers and stuff and want to go to a specific school, but I'm looking at this as blessings right here. And it's hard to turn down some and pick one. So it was very rough choice. It was, that's where I ultimately wanted to be 100% was Nicholls State. I love being there. Very good coaching staff. I'm in very good hands there. But ultimately, that decision of between those blessings was hard. But I did make my decision and knew I couldn't look back. So put
Yeah.
my head down and became a colonel and started working. I actually joined with the receivers and quarterbacks after the season, my senior year, just to
Mm-hmm.
get some
Yeah.
throws in. And I went out and kind of learned some routes and stuff, kind of learned how to do things early.
Yeah.
And then summer came and or graduation came and then
Yeah.
summer came and kind of was getting in the rhythm of the summer workouts that Edie White prepared me for
Yeah.
very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
And then into fall camp you go. And then throughout the season was just learning. I feel like I was just
Yeah.
learning, and improving. They said we got some good dudes, it's a little different, but just learning, and then now I'm here where I am. Had a decent spring. Felt a lot better than I did last year, and I feel like I'm improving overall.
Yeah. Did you, when I got to my first fall camp, I had trained all summer, prepared for it. I was ready. It was football practice, right? And I think about 45 minutes into my first practice, I said, what have I gotten myself into? What am I doing here? This is unreal. And I'm, taking first team snaps as on like kind of the JV practice. And,
Mhm.
I'm thinking, I got it going on. And I mean, within 45 minutes, I said, I am not prepared for this. Like, we never stopped. We never stopped running. We were pushing, and I'm playing quarterback. I'm not running routes. I'm not running special teams. And I was like, man, what am I doing out here? It was just such a reality check. So, how did you handle like that kind of conversion to college football practice and the, time constraints and camp life and all that?
Practices, you're right. They definitely are a little tougher than they
Mm-hmm.
were in high school and stuff like
Yep.
that. There's better competition, faster people. But I've never really I thought that at sometimes too, like
Yeah.
wow, this is rough. But I never really
Mm-hmm.
thought, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I always knew that football was my passion,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that this is what it takes. There's a small percentage of guys who even get the chance to play college
Right.
football, and for me
Right.
to just be on that field, you know, is a blessing. And for the next 5 years, I'm really blessed to be able to have that opportunity. So the conversion physically, I had to get used to it, but
Yeah.
mentally it was just,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here and a lot of people wish they were. So
Yeah, I mean, and it's so easy to just sit there and say, "Oh man, this is so difficult. Like, how am I going to get through this week? How am I going to get through this month?" But you have to backtrack and just reframe everything. How do I get through this rep? How do I get through
mhm.
this drill? How do I get through this practice session, this period, onto this practice, and just zoom out a little bit and just focus on one little thing at a time? Because if you think about the past and you think about the future, you're going to put yourself in a lot of stress that you have no control over. You can't control the past. You can control the future to a certain extent, but right now, being present, that's all you can do. And when you backtrack and look at it from that telescope view and see, look, I'm up. It's my drill. I got to do my best. If I don't do my best and it's not good enough, I evaluate and I say, look, okay, where do I go from here? So yeah, it's definitely a transition, but I mean, you're doing awesome, man. You're handling like a champ. So super super excited for you, and I want to make sure that you get all the credit you deserve and keep putting the work in. I'm so 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 excited to keep working with you, man. And I'm gonna put everything that you could possibly know or need to know about Paxton in the description. Check him out. His football highlights from E.D. White are absolutely insane to watch. If you need some motivation to figure out how to play receiver, if you want to play receiver, go watch this guy, and that'll show you what it takes to be an amazing high school receiver and then off to the next level. So, Pax, can't thank you enough, and looking forward to working soon, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, coach. Had a great time. Learned a lot.